What's up guys, it's Minx, and in today's video we're going to continue the Lethal Myers tutorial. Let me get rid of this. So I'm a little screwed up today, but we'll get started. So let's hop into it. Let me pull this up here as well. So we're just going to proceed as we started off from yesterday. So we created the object yesterday. I didn't really do any testing because I know this works. So this pulls up the object. And in today's video, we're gonna pretty much the rest of the code's gonna be in custom mode. So we're gonna get an idea of everything that we do. So let's actually kind of write like a list of steps that are taken throughout the mod, and then we'll kind of designate what we need to do for them. And this is what I like to do before I kind of create anything. So step one is, so let's say step one, we need to determine hunter. Shoot, here we go. Determine hunter. And we'll break that down a little bit further when we get to it. But that's ultimately step one. Step one is we need to figure out who's supposed to be the hunter. And then we want to go ahead and say just notify players. Step two, we need to lock the door for the hunter only. So at this point, we need to pick a hunter. So we need to find all the players that are active and then pick the hunter, lock the door for them. And we'll put a space here between the two and the step. In step three, we need to unlock the door for the hunter. After some time, which we'll specify later. It'll be a variable, so it can be customized. And then at that point, we also want to advise everyone that if they are outside, they will die soon. Because we want to kill everyone outside. We want everyone to be inside, right? For safe or for the to make the game worth playing, right? Because if some people are outside, it can be pretty big. So inside's worth it. Or inside's a good place. We also at this point, this is where I like to give the we'll say step three continued. We also want to also give the hunter a shotgun. So we'll need to be able to give the player a shotgun. Step four, sometime after. So step four, sometime after step three, unlock door, or excuse me, kill everyone, run and lock door. Okay, step five, allow death event to handle everything else. So everything beyond the automated system should be death events. So we need to make sure that we are handling step 1 through 4 properly, and then step 5 is all essentially one method. When someone dies, it'll determine what to do based on what we get to step 5. So we don't see it. Oh, Unity events is right here. We'll minimize that as well. Okay, this is pretty much it. And we kind of get an idea of everything we need to do. So we need to get a list of all players, then pick a player from that to determine the hunter, and then notify all the other players. So we'll need something to notify players and then a random to pick out a random player. So we'll need to pick from a list of players, for example. To lock the door, we need a way to prevent the door from being opened, and we need to pick a specific client for that. So that'll be a client-side method. To unlock the door, we need the same thing to lock the door. And then going back to just telling everyone that they're going to die soon. So that's just announcement and lock door. We could break this down like literally. So for example, step one, need to pick a player from a list / array of players and notify everyone with a message. So we need to be able to get a group of players, get every player that exists, and notify them after picking a random one. And then the only difference for the lock door is ability to lock door for a singular player. And for step 3, and we're going to specify that this is from the host machine. From host machine. Okay. Unlock the door for the hunter. So that's the same. We're not going to add this to step 3. We're going to keep that separate. Advise everyone, nothing new here. Your toggle door status and send an existing message. Then send a message, which we already know how to do. Step 3 continued. Give player a shotgun. Step 4, sometime after step 3, kill everyone. We need to learn how to kill people, kill players. Kill players. Okay, and then handle an on-death event. Okay. So we're probably going to handle step 1, 2, maybe 3 today. I don't know about the entirety of step 3. Giving a player a shotgun is a tall order. Not spawning the shotgun, but actually spawning it in the player's hands is a lot of work. So I'm probably going to do step 1 through 2 and maybe part of 3 because part 3 is just a continuation of step 1 and 2. So let's start with step 1. So you need to pick a player from a list/array of players and notify everyone with a message. So the first thing we need to do is identify all of the existing players. So what we'll do is we're going to do a private list of player controllers, controller B. We'll just say call it survivors equals, and we're not going to have it immediately instantiate. We're going to instantiate a new one each time we set up a new lobby. That way it automatically clears itself out. That's one way to do that, and that's the way we're going to do it here. And we're also going to want to specify who the player is, or who the hunter is. So we want to do a private player controller B, and call it just hunter. So we got survivors and hunter. I've also specified last player, but I don't really use it, so I'm going to ignore that for now, because we just know if survivors equals the count of survivors equals 1, then we know there's 1 survivor, and that'll get determined on death of a survivor or death of a player. It'll check, and if it's the survivor, then it will know. So when we do, let's see here. So if we move on to, let's say, void initialize. I'll say we'll do public void initialize because this is going to get called outside of this method. We could do internal void actually. Initialize. We'd say so. We could do a 3 slashes. So 3 slashes and say a host only event. So only the host should call initialize. So initialize on round start. We'll call it initialize. We'll follow the structure here. Initialize on round start. So we're going to do a double check to see if we are the host because the client should not be calling this if round manager instance is host. Oops. Why is it not working? Round manager instance is host. We're maybe missing a reference here. Let's see. Oh, yep. Network behaviors reference is defined as something that's not referenced. You must add the reference uni.netcode.runtime. So let's go ahead and add that real quick. Let's add a reference here. And I'm going to browse for it just in case. And we're looking for Lethal Company, the data managed, and unity.netcode, unity engine.netcode, or unity.netcode.runtime. Okay, and that should work. Just to double check, it should only be called on the host, but people can modify source. Now, if they're going to modify the source, they'll probably also modify this, but this is just a safety check. So you want to say survivors equals new list of player controller B. And actually what we can do to make this not indented, because making it not indented is a little better. So you do a If we are not the host, return. And then this will mean that if we are the host, it'll proceed. So survivors will be set up. And we'll have to do other things. We'll have to say is survivors. Oh, there we go. Survivors equals new list. We need to populate this list. So let's go ahead and populate the players here. So the way populate players works is essentially we're just going to do a real quick for each. So this will be under host events. So it's just a real quick region of only the host does it. So we put it in host events here real quick. So all we do is say public void. We could do private or internal. It doesn't really matter. We'll do private void populate players. And the first thing I want to do is say survivors.clear. Since we're adding every single existing survivor to the list and we're not checking to see if they should be added, the survivors.clear ensures that any existing one gets removed because this may get called later in the round to determine a new Michael or a new Hunter if you're using that. Even if you're not using it for that purpose, this is relevant. So we're just going to do a for each player in survivors. Actually, not in survivors. And start of round dot instance dot all players. And we want to do all player scripts. And we just say if the player is so if not the player dot is controlled or so if the player is not controlled or the player dot is player dead. So if the player is uncontrolled or the player is dead, we don't want them to be added to the list because they are not active. So, they're dead, they're spectating, or they're not spawned in or whatever. So if we do this, we can actually backspace this to be one line. We could just say continue. Okay. Then otherwise, we'll say survivors.add player. Okay, so that'll add them, and this is something we want to do at the beginning. This is one of the first things we want to do. So that's populate players. The next thing we'll want to do is actually determine the hunter based on a player that we've picked. So it's not super difficult. We'll want to do a random. Just give me 1 second here. Yeah, so, well, I guess the next thing we want to do is identify the shotgun, but we'll determine the hunter next. So it's called determine hunter. So we'll just put this in host events because it's supposed to go in host events anyway. So we'll just do a public or private void. It can be private, it's fine. We determine hunter. And we can do a variable. I'm not a big fan of this in this particular case, but it's okay. We'll say bool new round equals true. So by default, we're assuming that if we're determining a hunter, it's going to be a new round, and we'll have to specify if it's not, and we'll do something different. So first thing we want to do is say try. We want to try catch in this one and say hunter is equal to survivors. Survivors, and we want to pick a random by using the bracket here and say Unity Engine dot random dot range, and we'll do 0 and comma survivors dot count, and that'll get us a random survivor. And then once that's determined, we're going to say survivors dot remove hunter because the hunter is no longer a survivor. And we can do a catch here. We don't need to handle it. No need to handle too much. So essentially, if the hunter is not selected. So if hunter cannot be determined, at that point we would have already had failed. We would have failed at populate players. And we'll do a little bit more error handling later. So for now we're fine. So we'll say no need to handle. And then we'll say if hunter equals null. If I could type, return, and like I said, we could do more with this later. For example, if the hunter equals null, maybe we need to kill everyone and start over or something like that. So what's next? The next thing we want to do is say, because we have this new round variable that's specified here. So if there is a new round, why is this coming up bad? Oh, GIF. If we have a new round, then what do we want to do? We want to do some other things. We're not going to do anything here, so we'll defer it yet. We'll say toggle doors hunter. The reason we only toggle doors on a new round is if we're determining a second or third hunter or later, but not the first, that means they're already inside and there's no need to toggle the door. We could toggle if they're inside already or toggle on new round, but there's no need. But we also want to do a begin hiding. So we'll also do a new, like, quote unquote, begin hiding event. So we've got some new stuff. So that's okay. So determining the hunter is fine for now the way that it is. The next thing we want to do, and let's actually go ahead and make this now because this is a super useful helper method, is the announcement. So the announcement is, let me find it. It's a super simple method. So this is going to fall under helper methods. The client actually does the announcement. All we're doing is telling the client to do something. So if we do a public void, and this could be private internal, announcement, do string message. What I did for this one is say, I did a try catch just in case to make sure that things went through, and if they couldn't, they just proceeded anyway. We did a hunt manager dot instance dot display tip, and we could do a different thing. So display tip, we see here, it gives us a couple variables. So we could do the header text, which I just did as Michael Myers. Then we have body text, which is required. We have a warning, and then the use save and prefs key aren't relevant for us. The warning is interesting because it turns it from yellow to red, so it might be worth using, but we won't use it today. So we use Michael Myers for the heading, at least in my opinion, or at least in my case, and then message for the body of the text. So that's pretty much it, and then we could toss in a catch here. Catch. And then it doesn't really need to be handled or anything like that. In mine, I actually commented this part out. So we'll save and build real quick just to make sure everything's good. And then we'll come back up to, let's see here. So the first thing we want to do is after making survivors a new list, we'll populate players. And then we'll determine hunter, but we also want to make sure that the hunter can equip a shotgun. So equipping a shotgun is a tall order, like I said before. It takes a lot of work. So spawning a shotgun at the player's feet is not a problem. Giving the player a shotgun in their hands is a little bit of a problem. It takes a little bit of work, and we're not going to do that today. So although we will end up doing that, it's not going to be something today. So we'll say we need to identify the shotgun to spawn, because we don't just say spawn a shotgun of type shotgun item, as much as that would be easy. We need to do a little bit of code to determine what to spawn, which is a spawnable item if I'm not mistaken, or just an item, and then we need to use the item reference to spawn it, which we'll do later, and then we say identify hunter. Oops. What is it? Determine hunter. And now it's by default is true. We're going to specify true here just to be case. Um, and then we determine hunter. So far so good. We've determined the hunter. We've populated the players. What's next here? What do we else want to do? This isn't super structured, so I apologize. Normally I have things kind of laid out prior to doing them. Let's see. What else do we want to do today? Let's set up a network event. So we've set up an announcement for like the client to send an announcement. Like when this method gets called, it will do an announcement. So let's say server send announcement. So what we'll do is, and this is in reference to our, what do we call it? Unity network messages, if I'm not mistaken. We come up here, and I'm going to put this in its own space away from those. We'll say we can do public, it's fine. We could also do internal or private here because it doesn't get called anywhere else. Public global message, global net message, and it's going to be a type of string because we're sending a string through. It'll be server send announcement. Okay. And then when this object is created, not when it's initialized, we'll go to the Unity events and we'll do a void awake. So when the object is created back at the main menu, we want to register this server send announcement. So server send announcement equals new global net message string. And then we're going to give it a server send announcement. Okay. So when server send announcement is called, it's going to use this. If we hover over it, the only thing we need to specify is a string. We have the option to say assembly specific. I don't think we have an issue with server send announcement. We could specify true, but it's not necessary. And then so that's setting it to an instance. We could also theoretically, well, since it's on awake, we could send it up here, but I like to send it down here just in case we destroy the object and create a new one. The other thing we could do is say server, well, the other thing we need to do is say server send announcement dot message received. Now we have a few different options: received from client, received from server, and message received. So when do we want a message to pop up? Who do we care about a message from? The only time we care about a message is when it's sent from the server. If a client is sending a message, it should send it to the server, and then the server should send it to everyone else, in my opinion. That's how the network structure should work here. So we should only do something if the server says to send it out. Now, if the client tells the server to send a message and then the server agrees and sends a message, then fine, we'll listen to it. But it should be received from the server. So we will only do a message received from server here in this case. And we'll say, since this is an event handler, we'll do a plus equals announcement. We'll say server announcement received. And then we'll go ahead and show potential fixes and generate a method server announcement received. We'll just go ahead and cut that out and toss that into event handlers. Okay. And all it needs to do is, since it generates a string obj, is we need to just call our helper method announcement message, and obj goes into message. There we go. And what I like to do is just say, because we also don't need to do an announcement. Literally, announcement's just a one-line thing. So you could literally just toss this code in to the server announcement received. I also like to say console write line received message from a server. Okay, save and build. And that's pretty much it. The server by default when we send it out, so if we say message received from server, so if we do like determine hunter here and we say just by default drivers.remove hunter, if we say server send announcement dot send to all clients string data, so we just do determine we'll do it a money sign here and say hunter dot player name dot hunter dot name player username is what we're looking for. Hunter dot player username is the hunter. And if we hover over send to all clients, we have a few options. So firstly, include host. We want to make sure that we do include the host. In the way that we're setting this up, in the way that we have our network structure, if a host sends it to all clients, the easiest way to handle it is if the host also receives it. Otherwise, we could say host sends it to all clients and then also handles it locally, and then the clients handle it locally when they receive the message, or we just send it to all clients, including the host, and then they all handle it locally. It's a little easier for our purposes today. We don't need to worry too much about that. We also have the network delivery for reliability here, and we'll just leave it as reliable, which is fine. So overall, this works with the default settings. We just need to input the string. If there's ever a reason where we need to input it with a different reliability, such as unreliable, then we'll go ahead and do that. But for now, this works. And this will tell the host and all their clients, hey, this is sent over the network. This is what we're saying. Specify this, and the host will determine who the hunter is. The clients don't actually know who the hunter is. Their information is irrelevant. They don't need to know who it is. As far as the clients know, someone has a shotgun, and all they're going to end up doing is needing to hide. This avoids cheating to see, reading a local variable of who's the hunter, who I need to stay away from, where are they. They could still cheat, but this helps avoid that stuff. So that's how we send a network message across. It's super easy. We just set up a network message. We determine we create an instance of it. We determine what to do when it's sent, and we also determine when it's going to be sent and who it's sent to. So pretty straightforward. That's pretty much it for today's video. I think I'll keep it as that for now. In future videos, we'll get a little bit more advanced, but it's not super advanced compared to this. So that's pretty much it. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.